that. You'll be able to work on this just fine. And I'm going to work through some problems. Remember that you might understand this and you might want to just skip ahead, or you might not understand it and you want to back up a little or think about it a little or replay it. So let's work through some of these problems. All right, introduction to exponents. So when we have an exponent, we need to understand what it means. 2 to the 4th means 2 times itself 4 times. That little 4 is just shorthand for how many times we're going to multiply 2. It can get quite large. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. There's your explanation. You can see it here in the answer. And let's do another one. All right, power of 10, positive exponent. Okay, powers on a 10 are pretty awesome. So the same as the last time, the exponent means the same thing. 10 to the 6th means 10 times itself. 6 times, whoops. One, two, three, four, five, 6. And anytime we're multiplying by 10, it's pretty awesome. We're just going to end up with the number of zeros that we had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 10 to the 6th equals 1,000,000. Powers on a 10 are super easy. The number of zeros is the same as the exponent. Here's your explanation and your answer. And let's look at this one. All right, introduction to parentheses. The main thing you need to know with parentheses is that they say, do me first. So if you enter this just like this in your calculator, and I know in Alex it's probably not going to give you a calculator for this problem, but you're in high school now, and often you need to back yourself up with the calculator anyway. So I'm not as phobic of a calculator as maybe some are, and I am okay if you just enter this in your calculator. But I want you to be aware of order of operations, because there's going to come a point where we're going to throw in variables and you're not going to be able to just put it in your calculator. So if I have this, the parentheses are telling me, do this first. 3 minus 1 is 2. And this problem becomes 6 divided by 2, which is 3. Notice what happens if we do this out of order. If I do 6 divided by 3 minus 1, and I do 6 divided by 3 first, that'll be 2. 2 minus 1 is 1, and this is the wrong answer. You have to follow order of operations, and in order of operations, we do exponents first. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. We do parentheses first, then we'll do exponents, then we'll do multiplication and division, and then we'll do addition and subtraction. Lots of people have their please excuse my dear Aunt Sally saying that they like to say, but parentheses always say do me first. So think parentheses equal do me first. There's our explanation, and we can see the 3 down there at the bottom. All right, next up we have introduction to order of operations, which is basically what we were doing before. Again, don't be afraid to put these in your calculator, but I want you to understand where this is coming from. We always start with a problem like this with parentheses. There are none, right? Then we go to exponents. There are none. Great. The next thing we do is, here, let's just write this. That's nice and neat for you, right? Exponents 3. Multiplication and division, they are equal. We always do these left to right, just like you read. After we're done with that, we can do addition and subtraction. Same, left to right. This is the order that everybody does it in. This is how we speak this language, right? So I'm not going to do 58 minus 6 first. I'm just going to keep it 58 minus, but I'm going to do this 6 times 4. 6 times 4 is 24. And then I can do 58 minus 24, which is 34, I believe. And that's my final answer. So notice that I didn't do what was first. I had to go to the multiplication first, get that done, and then do the subtraction. There's your explanation and your final answer. You can always pause the video too if you want to look at that a little longer. Order of operation with whole numbers. All right, same concepts going on here. There are no parentheses, there are no exponents, but I have to do multiplication and division left to right first. Here's some. So I'm going to do 3 plus 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay, plus, copy it down, 2 times 9 is 18. Great. So now addition is left. 3 plus 4 is 7. Again, I'm really not opposed to you putting these in your calculator. This answer to this should be 25. Here's your explanation and your answer. All right, next thing we need to do. Wow, look at all that. That's cool. So we've got grouping symbols and everything going on here. So parentheses, definitely we're going to do those first. Notice there's no exponents, so after we get done with the parentheses, we'll be okay. Okay, so we have parentheses inside parentheses. In order to use a calculator for parentheses inside parentheses, you just use the same parentheses. There aren't different ones. But in this case, we'll do this by hand. So inside of this guy, we have 3 times, we're going to do this first, 20 minus 11, 20 minus 10 is 10, minus 1 more is 9, right? And then minus 7 divided by 5. And I just turned these guys into regular parentheses at this point because we don't have two different things going on. Now, inside of these parentheses, I have to follow order of operations. Multiplication comes first. So I'm going to have 27 minus 7. Keep everything else the same. 27 minus 7 is 20. Once I get down to one number, my parentheses can go away. And 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay, explanation. There we go. Alrighty, next problem. This is fun. Order of operations with whole numbers and exponents. Alright, so here we don't have any parentheses, but definitely this exponent is going to come first. So let's take care of that. 4 plus 3 times 5 squared. And remember that 5 squared, the exponent just means multiply it by itself. The same number as the exponent. Alright, so we're done with the exponents and we can go to multiplication. 3 times 25 is like 3/4, which is 75 cents. And 4 plus 75 is 79. There you go. And here's a nice list of rules right here. If I was using a sweet note-taking app, Notability, I'd cut this and paste it. But anyway, right here is what we've been talking about. Number 1, evaluate expressions with parentheses. Number 2, evaluate terms with exponents. Number 3, multiply and divide left to right. Number 4, add and subtract left to right. And back yourself up. With the calculator. Don't spend hours and hours and hours on numbers. We need to practice them and get good at them, but we also need to move on to things that take longer to compute, especially if you don't have a calculator. All right, order of operations with integers. We're going to throw in some positives and negatives here. I have -3 minus a -6 divided by 3. All right, so here's my division. Let's just do this. Keep my -3 minus out here is fine. -6 divided by 3. Remember your rules. There's a negative and a positive, and so we're going to have a -2. However you want to do that. So these parentheses don't mean do me first. They just mean don't get the minus and the negative confused, right? Subtracting is adding the opposite, and -3 plus 2, I like to think of it as like a -3/4 and a +2/4. And when they cancel each other out, I have a -1 left over. They kind of go like a 1-to-1 battle. Each negative pairs with a positive. I don't know if that makes sense to you. It's like a tug of war across 0. You have these -3 was one more bad guy more powerful than +2. You can laugh, but these are ways we straighten out numbers in our brains, right? There's an explanation. I like their explanation more. Welcome to look at it. All right, and then we're going to throw in a big old fraction. No problem, right? Fractions themselves are a little bit like parentheses. The stuff that's on the top and the stuff that's on the bottom are as if they're in parentheses. Okay, so we're going to deal with the top here. We have 12 plus 7 times 6. Let's just deal with that. Notice that 7 times 6 is 42. That has to happen first. And 12 plus 42 is 54. So that'll go on the top of our fraction. Okay. And on the bottom we have 8 minus 5 in parentheses squared. Okay. Parentheses come first. A little bit later we'll deal with what happens when there's a variable in there and you can't do what's in the parentheses. But in this case we do know how to do 8 minus 5. 8 minus 5 is 3. 3 squared. And 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. 9 goes on the bottom. All right, now we have a fraction we can actually simplify. A little trick. 5 plus 4 is 9. And so 9 is going to go into 54. And the other trick is it'll always be 1 more than the 5. 9 times 6 is 54. So this is actually an even 6. If you haven't thought about 9s, do it real quick. 1 times 9 is 9, and 2 times 9 is 18. Notice that 1 plus 8 is 9. It's kind of cool. 3 times 9 is 27. 2 plus 7 is 9. 4 times 9 is 36. 3 plus 6 is 9. There's a couple patterns going here. Just take a minute and write that out and think about it. That's 9s. If they've been tricky to you before, make friends with them because there's so many fun patterns. Notice that when it's 2 times 9, it starts with a 1, and when it's 3 times 9, it starts with a 2, and when it's 4 times 9, it starts with 3. It's always 1 less. Anyway, that's a side note. Answer is 6. This is the end of part 1, and you should look for part 2.